Show them approval and support what they do. Believe them. Encourage them. Trust. Hey, welcome again to the Oscar Amisi Leadership Podcast. My name is Oscar Amisi and I'm so passionate about leadership. In this podcast, we equip people with high capacity practical tools to build and to drive societal transformation. We're so passionate about this because we believe if you and I can build our leadership skills and practically employ best leadership practices wherever we are, then we'll change the story of many of organizations, our churches, our governments, and the businesses that we run. As always, I've always said, if this is helping you, this is benefiting you, please would you kindly visit the Oscar Amisi Leadership Podcast page or YouTube channel and subscribe. And once you've subscribed, go a step further and share it to as many people that you know that would benefit from our teachings in this podcast. And don't just go to the YouTube channel, visit the major podcast channels that are there. For example, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify, and be able to subscribe. And I'll challenge you also, if you've not gotten my new book, my latest leadership book, Sit It Out, visit Amazon. Buy my latest leadership book, Sit It Out, How Great Leaders Become Great Leader Makers. And you'll be able to get the teachings that I'm making and read them even in greater detail. Visit Amazon, and I'll tell you that will be the best leadership decision you'll be making this year. We've been talking about being a displayer leader. We've been talking about how to become a great leader maker. We said one of the key things of a great leader maker is that they must be displayer leaders. And we simply defined a displayer leader as one who grows other leaders. You grow other leaders. You create opportunities for other leaders, and you open doors for other leaders. You grow other leaders. You create opportunities for other leaders, and you open doors for other leaders. It's so super important. It's so critical if you're going to be a great leader maker. Last week, we started off on looking at the techniques, the practical things that you and I need to know are to display the leaders that are around us. Now that I'm growing them, I'm creating opportunities for them. What practical things do I need to do for me to know I am intentionally displaying these leaders? And that's why we started on the how of displaying. How do we do it? And we told you we have 3 key things, very important, critical for any leader who desires to be a great displayer. We shared 2. Today we're going to share 1 from those 3 things. And the 2 that we shared, we reminded you and told you that the first one that is very important is opportunity. And opportunity is simply giving people a chance to find expression. Allow people to express themselves. Give them a chance to become better and to do better. They have skills, they've honed skills, they've learned, picked some lessons from you. Give them a chance to be able to express that which they've learned. You see, we said, when you do that, you're giving people that you're developing a place to expand their expression and to sharpen their competence. When you give them an opportunity, you're giving them a platform for them to expand their expression and to sharpen their competence. And we told you that there are 3 critical opportunities that you must consider as you give people opportunity. 1 is opportunity for self-awareness, or if you like, self-discovery. And we said, many upcoming leaders will always doubt themselves because they don't have the experience. They'll always keep on second-guessing themselves, especially on their ability and potential. I mean, you meet so many people saying, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'm gifted in that area. I think I'm shy. I think I'm scared. They need an experienced person to take time to point out the inherent qualities, gifts, and potential that they possess. And they will need the leader to do that. So your work as a leader is to make sure that you're picking out or you're calling out potential and greatness inside people. Know that those people that you're developing will doubt their abilities. Remember when you're upcoming, you doubted your abilities. You second-guessed yourself. You never thought you could do it. It took somebody else to say, no, you can do it. I can see potential. I can see this inherent gift inside of you. You can do. That's what you do when you create opportunity for self-awareness. When you told you there are two things that happens when they get to have the opportunity for self-awareness. One is that they get to discover. What do they get to discover? They get to discover gifts, talents, and potential that they've never known that they have. They get to discover themselves. That takes a great leader maker to make that possible. And then number two, they get to rediscover. What do they get to rediscover? They get to rediscover and reawaken gifts, talents, and potential that they knew they had, but maybe because of frustration, lack of support, they gave up and buried those gifts. They get to rediscover. That's what happens when you give them opportunity for self-awareness. We told you the other opportunity that you got to give them is opportunity for access. And we said opportunity for access is literally calling them to be with you, have access to you. Remember, I told you earlier, don't you insulate yourself. You can't insulate yourself from those that you're leading. You must give them active proximity. And we said when you give them access, you're giving them the opportunity to pick two lessons from you. One is a lesson on character. They get to see how you live as a person. They get to see how your life is lived in the backstage of your life. When you're not in action, when you're not in those high-table meetings. It could be when you're driving or you're in some certain space, you're having lunch, you're just having a casual talk. They get to pick how do you live your life. And then number two, they pick a lesson on competence. And this is simply that they get to learn and understand how you process stuff, especially when there's a crisis, when there's difficulty. The organization is going through a turbulence. You've got to make some hard, tough decisions. You're giving them the front row seat for them to see how you process such things. And doing that is beneficial to them because they're picking lessons for the future. Because as they develop in their leadership, there'll be some certain spaces where they've got to make some hard decisions. So if you give them opportunity, you give them the front row seat to see you be able to process that, you'll be doing them a big favor. So we told you opportunity for self-awareness and opportunity for access. Let me tell you another opportunity that you need to give them if you're going to learn how to display. It is what I call opportunity for activation. Opportunity for activation. And this is creating an environment for them to thrive. As a leader, you intentionally create an environment for the people you're developing to unleash their shine. And a safe environment, listen for that matter, a safe environment for them to engage and even fail without the fear of retribution. To engage and even fail without the fear of retribution. You get to open and start to teach them that, listen, failure has never been the opposite of success. That I can allow them to expand, find expression, and when they fail, I can call them back for us to be able to interrogate the lessons that we are learning in such a situation. That's what you do. That's what a leader does. Opportunity for activation. What happens when you give them opportunity for activation? Two things happen. In fact, we'll pick those two, and then we'll be finishing. Number one is that for activation, there has to be endorsement. You learn to endorse them. And endorsing is simply lending an emerging leader your credibility. When I endorse somebody, they're green, inexperienced, what I'm doing to them, I'm simply lending them my credibility. If I introduce an upcoming leader to maybe somebody that we are at the same level as far as leadership is concerned, I say, this is so and so, and I endorse them because I think they're good leaders, they're up and coming. What I'm doing is that I'm lending them my credibility. That's what I'm doing. You see, once you come up with the kind of opportunities that your developing leaders need, you go to now intentionally back them up by openly showing approval to them and what they do. Back them up, show them approval and support what they do. Believe in them, encourage them, trust them, support them, believe in them, encourage them, support them, and trust in them. That's what you're doing. You've created opportunities, doors have been opened. Can you go a step further and endorse them? And endorsing is saying, I'm backing what you do. I am openly, not secretly, openly showing approval to you and to what you do. Let us look at 2 ways in which you can endorse the person that you're developing. There are 2 ways that you can endorse the people that you're developing. Number 1 is public recognition. Public recognition. And this is visible affirmation of people. That's why I told you intentionally lend your credibility to those that you're leading. And I think that's something that we all need to work on. Is it possible for us to visibly affirm people around us? Public recognition. So-and-so is doing a good job. And say it in public, not in secret. When you do that, you're building their confidence. And then number 2, personal networks. Personal networks. Giving them credibility to engage with your personal network. You see, you follow up the visible formation of the people you're developing by giving them endorsement to your personal networks. You do that. Display leaders are secure in their calling and are never afraid that the people they are developing will upstage them. They are free to introduce them to their personal networks. That's what happens when you endorse the people that you're developing. And that's the how of displaying. You endorse them. You give them opportunity for activation, for them to thrive. And as they do that, you endorse them as a leader. Not only do you endorse, but there's also an aspect of accountability when it comes to activation. Accountability. In accountability, you hold them responsible. Now remember, the first 2 that we talked about, opportunity for self-awareness, opportunity for access, and opportunity for activation. That's the work of the leader. That's what the leader does. That, concerns the leader. It is the environment that you create. When it comes to this third one of accountability, the shift of the burden of responsibility now moves to the person being developed. It shifts to the person being developed. It's the person that you're developing that you now intentionally hold accountability. And you hold them accountable by holding them responsible. It is holding those you have given a platform responsible to the ideals that will protect their influence. I'll say that again. Holding those you have given a platform responsible to the ideals that will protect their influence and success and the influence of the organization. How do you do that? You demand ethical engagement. Make sure you demand ethical engagement on the part of the developing and upcoming leader. Demand some certain standards. Ethics. That's what I call ethical engagement. There are things, there are values we stand for as an organization. There are things we believe in. What does that do? It guarantees the preservation of the credibility and legacy of you, the leader, and the organization. In other words, they need to know that, listen, you can't just carry yourself anyhowly. I need you to preserve my credibility. And not just my credibility and my legacy, but that of the organization. And the only way we can make sure that this happens is to hold those that we are developing accountable. That's what we need to do. So remind you that, listen, when it comes to the first 2, opportunity for self-awareness, where they discover and rediscover. When it comes to opportunity for access, where they pick lessons on character and competence. When it comes to opportunity for activation, whereby they are now thriving and working out, you've said that environment, you're endorsing them, and you're not only endorsing them, you're giving them public recognition, you're introducing them to your personal networks. The second thing on that score that you've got to do is to hold them accountable. As you get to holding them accountable, the burden of responsibility now shifts. It is not just on the great leader maker, but it is also on the person being developed. You hold them responsible to uphold the ethical values of the organization so that they can help preserve your legacy, your credibility as the leader and that of the organization. I want to stop there, because next week we'll be looking at areas in which you're supposed to hold those that you're developing accountable. But then, as we bring this to a close, let me reiterate. If this teaching is helping you, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Oscar Amisi's Leadership Podcast, and share. Visit the major podcast platforms and subscribe. And go to Amazon. Pick my newest leadership book, Seed It Out, How Great Leaders Become Great Leader Makers. This week, I challenge you, be a great leader maker. Be a displayer leader. Don't be insecure. Don't be afraid. Don't follow the conventional rules of leadership. No, be courageous. Take the risk and make the decision that I'm going to display others. I'm going to endorse them, and I will hold them accountable. See you next week as we finish on Displayer Leader. I'll see you then. Thank you for joining us today.